Materialist. Was that Fabulous? From High School Musical 2. It's time to review Materialists. On A24, Materialists. Celine's Song gave us a film a few years ago. This one right here, Past Lives. I think it's exceptional. It was maybe my favorite of that year. No, it wasn't. Holdovers was that year, bro. Oh, and Across the Spider-Verse. I think one of my favorite romance films. I think it explores just the sort of unspoken nervousness of love in a really honest way. Just seeing the real story happening behind the eyes of everybody. That's like a way of storytelling that just really gets me, and I found myself so moved by this. Just the idea of what could have been is really the power of Past Lives. And now we have Materialists. Is a massive letdown, in my opinion. This is way worse. Way worse than Past Lives. At least for me. And I know not everybody loved Past Lives like I did, but surely we can agree that this is a weaker film than Past Lives. This film does actually make me, and it hurts to say this, it makes me nervous to revisit Past Lives. They both have a really similar style to them. Quite cold in its approach. And again, in Past Lives, I think that coldness translated to a real tangible nervousness and uncertainty. Whereas here, I don't think the same thing happens. I think this film has little to no subtext at all. Past Lives' entire power was lied in the subtext. This film pretty instantly spells out its point. The first scene is a real left turn. You look at these trailers and you'll be pretty shocked to learn that the very first thing you see in this film is cavemen. The film's called Materialists. We have a lot of rich people, material people, superficial people. The opening scene is a caveman and a cave woman making each other flowers, hugging each other, and then this title card. Am I crazy to say that it couldn't be more obvious what the film's about? I don't think the film gets a huge amount deeper as it goes along. It's about how commodified and homogenized and merchandised we are in the dating world, and how that takes away our humanity and how real, honest love is harder to feel today. The critiques of this at some points in the film are pretty compelling, but in my opinion, the film doesn't really communicate what it's going for. And I realized this when I watched this interview with Celine's Song, and she's talking about how we're so obsessed with the numbers, true love is always worth saying yes to, and yet in the film, I don't know if I'm really feeling this sentiment as much. There's a few scenes that I think contradict this. I think the sentiment she's expressing is great. I think it's honestly, this as a concept for a romance film, it's pretty compelling. It's good stuff, and of all the people to tackle it, I feel like Celine's Song's a good idea. She's got a pretty tactile understanding of romance and love and people. But yeah, for me, dude, there was a scene in the film, this was one of my least favorite scenes. Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson, so they used to be a couple. So you get a flashback of when they were arguing at the tail end of their relationship. I can only assume it was at the tail end of their relationship, and they're arguing, and Chris Evans is driving a car, and he's trying to find a place to park, but he's complaining, he's angry. Oh, I can't afford to park anywhere, everything's so expensive. And Dakota Johnson's like, don't worry, I'll get it. And he's like, no, you shouldn't have to get it, blah, blah. So he's kind of got this financial insecurity thing. And Dakota Johnson storms out of the car. The argument bubbles up, and she gets out the car, and she's yelling at him in the road about how, I don't hate you because you're poor, but right now I do. And I hate myself for hating you that you're poor. And Chris Evans, he's working class, struggling to get by, but he loves Dakota Johnson. And in this moment, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Dakota Johnson decides, you know what, I'm angry, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna storm out, and Chris is like, come back, where you going? And she's like, I hate you because you're poor, and I hate myself, and you hate me. And he's like, no, I don't hate you. And she's saying all this shit. And I think the point of this scene was supposed to be that Chris Evans loves her regardless of all this superficial shit. All I could think watching that scene is Chris Evans, John, my boy, this is crazy. Get out of this situation, bro. Get out of this, brother. She's screaming at you about how she hates that you're poor and she hates herself in the middle of the public. You gotta have some self-respect at that point, brother. You gotta get out of that, man. He was just sort of pleading at the feet of Dakota Johnson, please, I love you, please. And it was just mate, this is how you want to communicate true love triumphs all. This is messy. I just didn't buy their love at all. I didn't think they had much chemistry together, and I think the people in this film, the characters, are super miscast, bro. Dakota Johnson looks the part. She looks the part 100%, but her acting in this film is not great, man. I found a lot of her deliveries stiff, goofy, and she's been good before, right? She was good in Suspiria. I liked her in The Peanut Butter Falcon. You know, I think she's not horrible, but I don't think she's particularly good. I mean, most of the time it seems like she's kind of phoning it in, and this was a weak performance. Like, these performances are really, really, like, bland. Pedro Pascal, man, he was good. He was fine. I think he got the job done. Like, he was pretty believable as this sort of, like, rich player stud guy who's sort of trying to find someone to settle down with and sort of understands where Dakota's coming from and her sort of mathematical approach to romance, her being a matchmaker. He wasn't, like, really killing it, but he was, like, you know, fine. Chris Evans, I don't understand why they got him to play John. Look at this fucking guy. Look, bro, you kidding me right now? Chris Evans? This is the guy they got to play, like, the humble, struggling, innocent, working class, like kind of relatable guy. Like, you got Chris Evans, bro. Like, we love Chris Evans. Sure, he's a fun actor to watch on screen. But every single shot of this guy, look at each one of these pictures. He looks like a fucking chiseled god statue. He's like an action hero. He's Captain America. This is the guy you wanted to cast for, like, humble little John. Like, what the fuck are we doing, bro? I think I saw a Letterboxd review. It was Kiati. No, it wasn't even in her Letterboxd review. It was in her fucking video. She was saying how Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans should have swapped roles. When she said that, I was like, fuck. 100%. Absolutely 100%. I think Pedro could sell being that guy. He sort of has the range to do that. And Chris Evans being like the unicorn, as they call it in this movie, like, I could totally see that working. That would just make more sense on screen. Chris Evans' acting is fine though. Like, it's I don't know, the acting was so, like, boring. It was just such a lifeless movie. And it's weird because the things that made this movie lifeless are the things that made past lives so feelable and human. Like, the lines are given so much space to breathe. There's like a little moment of pause and reflection in between every line in the movie, and I just found that really frustrating in Materialists. I was like, this is just chugging along. And then in Past Lives, I think that had a similar quality, but it instead in that movie came off like patient, honest, earnest, personal, and I think maybe something to do with the, you know, Korean background of Celine's song. You know, she's partly Korean, right? So yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like, Past Lives definitely had a really personal touch to it. She's got less skin in the game, bro. Simply. So yeah, you're going to cast Chris Evans. Oh, I guess she's not really going to be behind. I don't know how involved she was with the casting. But yeah, there's just much more of a disconnect happening on screen. This thing is marketed like a rom-com. Like, if you just look at this, even with the sound off, like, you look at this trailer, looks fantastic, sounds fantastic. Like, the score, Japanese Breakfast appeared. It was a nice needle drop. Daniel Pemberton on the score, who did Across the Spider-Verse, as well as, I think he did Eddington as well recently. You have that moment right there. He's throwing the phone in the blender. You see it's edited to sort of look like there's a bit of comedy going on. There's like a snappiness to it, and the film is everything but snappy. This is not a snappy movie. This is a very meandering, sluggish movie. Intentionally so, methodically, slow and patient. There's like the occasional light chuckle, but there's little to no comedy at all in this movie. And there was a review, I want to say it was this 5-star review. It was this one. Yeah, this one right here. It was, I feel like in the same vein as Joker, where people went in expecting a glorified portrayal of the Joker, the filmmaker instead chose to challenge the audience. It was advertised as a typical throwback rom-com. Its message will be received by the people who really need the reality check of this movie. The people that go in thinking, oh, love, rom-com, blah, 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 it's all kind of material. They go into Materialists and it's like, oh no, we are forgetting how to love. And that's, I think, a really interesting point. To be fair, like, you know, there's very few romance films that are critiquing romance like Materialists is, but again, in my opinion, it just doesn't get there. What it's setting out to do, I think, is really horribly communicated in the film. It's either visually displayed in a way that's awkward and contradictory, or it's just spelled out for you in the writing. I think the best parts of the film, I quite enjoyed when Dakota Johnson was sort of looking through the clients and sort of sizing them up. That was one of the moments where the sort of bleakness of this, like, dystopian view of romance worked for me. Also the scenes where she was at work with her other matchmaker friends, I think captured that as well. But yeah, ultimately, dude, this thing bored the fuck out of me, bro. The last 30 minutes of this thing were an absolute chore. It was very predictable. The film was very easy to see coming. So that really made me feel the length of the last 30 minutes, because I was like, yep, I know. All my nearby cinemas, it's getting a fair bit of airtime. I don't know how it's doing financially, though. It's made 75.3 milli willy damn off a budget of 20 million. You know what? Hey, that's a good turnaround, man. Props to Celine Song, and I'm not gonna totally write her off yet. There is a similarity in her style between Materialists and Past Lives. Like, her style of filmmaking is still intact, but the script just what the fuck? I think the difference is the script here it feels a lot more, the script in this one just feels so much more fucking like on the nose, clunky. These lines are just things I just can't imagine anyone actually saying. So when Dakota Johnson says them in her sort of robotic fucking acting, there's so little to feel. I have seen some videos of people sort of defending the film and explaining how like the message of this film came right on time, and I think it is resonating for some people. I know a few people that really love it. I mean, look, there we go. Plenty of my friends have given it pretty positive reviews, but for me though, yeah, this was fucking lame. I'm going 2-star. I think it's bad. You could do worse. And again, it does sort of occasionally get somewhere with its critiques of romance, but yeah, it doesn't happen often. And there's plenty of scenes that aggravate more than they please. 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb, and on Letterboxd we're looking at a 3.1 out of 5. It's just sort of in that middling kind of range where some people are really clicking with it, some people are just sort of a bit bored by it, and most people are just kind of in the middle. Like, it's fine. Yeah, that checks out to me. Let me know what you think of the film in the comments. If you have a different take on it to what I had to say, then let me know. Let me know what you think. If you feel like I'm way off base, let me know. Ultimately, I can't dissociate from my personal experience watching the film. I did not have a good time while I was in the cinema, but hey, I'll listen to you. I'll hear you out. Maybe we can come to a rational conclusion together. That'd be sick, won't it?